Owner-occupied homebuyers were not the only ones that have experienced FOMO on buying houses over the last few years. Real estate investors jumped into the overpaying, high-stake game of home buying. And in some markets, 1 in 3 of the houses sold in the last 2 years was to real estate investors. Thanks for tuning into this video, guys. In this video, we're talking about how real estate investors have really gotten themselves in the jackpot by jumping into the real estate market. We're talking about the single family housing real estate market, an area that they probably shouldn't have played in. And now that the markets are declining nationwide in both home values and rents, some of these companies are in big trouble. In fact, real estate investors are a large part of why we got into the housing acceleration process in the first place. These real estate investors, they added additional competition to would-be home buyers and honestly just knocked them out of the market by competing with cash offers, allowing the homeowners to stay as long as they want, in some cases rent-free, and not requiring inspections and home repairs, which, hey, guess what? The sellers were absolutely loving at the time. In other words, these real estate investors were just simply outbidding you to win the house. Now, this isn't much different than I watched when it happened in 2006 that ultimately led to the housing crash of 2008, where everybody and their brother, including my neighbors, were buying houses in hopes to quickly capitalize on home sale profits. And a lot of times back then, people were simply buying the house, doing absolutely nothing to it, and reselling it for tens of thousands of dollars in profits. And in many cases, they were simply flipping the contract, or what was known as an assignment sale, where they never even took possession of the house and they still made tens of thousands of dollars. From vacation rentals, short and long-term rentals, and flipping, real estate investors over the last 2 years have been jumping in headfirst, trying to profit from the roof over our head. And guys, it wasn't just the mom and pop real estate investors that have been buying real estate. I'm talking about the institutional Wall Street-like buyers that were gobbling up tens of thousands of houses. They jumped into the single family housing industry for the purpose of either fixing it up and reselling it to you or renting it to the people that were simply outbid at the time. I mean, after all, how could you possibly compete with their no contingency cash offers? Now, I'm sorry to say, but most of these large real estate investment firms are realizing that in many of the markets that they invested in, they're simply losing money. As in many of the U.S. markets, we're experiencing rapidly declining home values as well as declining rental rates. And not to forget about the rising cost of materials and actual labor costs to get something done. This isn't what they were planning or expecting, and I think now they're waking up to the huge mistakes. And many of these companies, and I'm going to say greedy companies at this point, right, took their eye off of their business model, which was buying apartment buildings, complexes, which you can kind of understand where a business or an institution would do something like that, to jump into the single family home buying, which really caused a lot of problems for our would-be home buyers. With that aside, although some people were successful in competing with these institutional buyers, we know them because now it's been said that like 74% of them on average have now some type of buyer remorse. I mean, after all, to compete with these institutional buyers, they had to pay $50,000 more than asking price and also bring their cash or their parents' cash in the form of gift money to the table to pay $10,000 to maybe $70,000 over appraised value. And now these home buyers that were successful in bidding against you businesses are now finding that they don't have the money or the cash for the repairs of the home. And as we know, these are costly because they never got their inspections to find out just what they were buying in the first place. Now, let's take a minute and look at some recently published data. This chart that I'm about to show you was recently published on Fortune.com. The chart was provided by Lance Lambert, and the information contained was provided by Redfin. This chart represents a list of cities in the U.S. and the purchase share of homes by investors, and is comparing Q1 of 2021 to Q1 of 2022. This data shows that Atlanta, Charlotte, and Jacksonville, more than 30%, guys, of the homes sold were bought by investors. I mean, come on, that's like 1 in 3. Most cities representing this data were in double-digit percentages. And the lowest represented here was Providence, Rhode Island, with still 8% of all homes sold during this period were sold to investors. Now let's look at some recent reckoning as a result of the last 2 years of home price surge. That will bring us to realestateinvestoroppendoor.com. Now, this is a recently new company that was launched in this period of time that quickly went on to buy thousands of single-family houses. In the middle of the heated market in August of 2021, Bloomberg.com published an article stating Open Door shares surged after the company more than doubled the number of homes it acquired in the second quarter with its tech-powered approach to real estate gaining popularity with consumers. Popularity with consumers, huh? I guess they're talking about the seller consumers for reasons that I had previously mentioned, paying cash, letting them stay in the house, no inspections. The Bloomberg article went on to say that Open Door had gobbled up at that time roughly 8,500 homes. That was then, and this is now. Let's take a look at this trading chart where the company that once traded over $23 per share around a year ago now sits, guys, at about $2.44 a share as of November 2nd. Now, I'm no financial advisor, but I would say that I'm a pretty savvy consumer. And I'm going to ask you, how does this look to you? And a recent article that was published on therealdeal.com says Open Door, the iBuying giant, is for the first time selling homes at a loss. Analyst Mike Del Prete said in a research note, it's the result of the fast-changing market, cooled by rising mortgage rates and stock market uncertainty. Makes sense to me. If you buy thousands of, let's just say, houses for an average of $350,000, and a year later you have to sell those houses at a loss, it doesn't take me very long to realize that they probably made a big mistake. But I guess for some businesses, the repercussions may not be that bad, especially if they used other people's money with little to no personal recourse of their own. Could this be the reckoning that we've been waiting for that says, hey, institutional buyers, don't mess with the roofs over our head? In the housing business, guys, there are just way too many moving parts for these large institutional giants to gobble up single-family houses. They think that they're going to make a successful business model like making a loaf of bread. Well, I can tell you guys, they're now realizing that when they buy these houses, the changing expenses like utilities, taxes, cost of maintenance and repairs is something that they just can't predict in order to make a profit. Institutional buyers, please stick to buying apartments. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, you can let me know that you did by hitting the thumbs up. As always, I appreciate when you subscribe to our channel. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time I upload content just like this. See you next time.
Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.